Hey, this is your hillbilly historian coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee, bringing you truth, justice, and the American way, common sense, the legacy of common sense and integrity, where truth, logic, common sense, reasoning overcomes radical leftism and communism and Marxism. We talk about the reality of the universe and the truth that exists therein. Today, I want to talk about guaranteed income. This is a concept that actually comes to us from ancient times. Scholars way back wondered about what would happen if everybody had a guaranteed income. Well, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. There's been experiments in England way back, centuries ago, where people, maybe 100 years ago, where people experimented with the guaranteed income in certain communities. And it never worked out. Because the one thing you have to have an income to pay people for not working, for not earning. A guaranteed income is assumed that they don't earn it. Your government could require you to work, but if people are guaranteed an income, then what are they going to do? Are they going to work? Well, there's been experiments in that, and it never worked out. These socialist ideas of utopia never seem to work out. Now, Rugby, Tennessee is a perfect example of this type of experiment. A writer in England wanted to have a place where those second, third, and fourth sons, because only the eldest son inherited everything, and you had those second, third, and fourth sons laying around not doing anything. So this author thought, well, he'd create this community in the middle of rural Tennessee where these people could go and they could work and earn and make something out of themselves. And Rugby started out with good funding. They built houses. They built a big hotel where people could stay. They built tennis courts. It was probably a mistake there. And they started farming, growing tomatoes. Well, they couldn't get anybody to go out in the field and work the tomatoes. They'd rather prefer to play tennis, sit around the verandas of the hotels, drink cocktails, and socialize, because they came from wealthy homes in England. They were used to sitting around on their butts. They weren't used to going out in fields and plowing and picking tomatoes and doing, getting bugs off the tomatoes and all that stuff. They weren't used to that. So the Rugby experiment totally failed. Another cause for their failure is they tried to get a rail line into Rugby out of Knoxville, Tennessee, where they could ship their tomatoes to market. But hey, there were other ways they could ship those tomatoes, but that took more effort and work, and they weren't willing to do it. If they had worked hard, showed that their tomatoes could be sold, then the rail company would have built a railway in there. But they didn't want to show that. They wanted to lay around on their butts, on the veranda, drinking cocktails or playing tennis, socializing. So that kind of socialism just does not work. because human nature tends toward the laziness. Now, we have a guaranteed income in the United States right now. Our government pays half our people for not working. Half our people pay no taxes on income. So basically they're living, and they get all kinds of government benefits. The elderly get Social Security, which they've paid into their entire lives. But you get people getting all these social programs, since Lyndon Johnson passed that War on Poverty Act in January 8, 1964. People have been getting all kinds of programs, over $22 trillion in housing, furnishing, food programs, things that basically they did not have to work for. They were getting for nothing. Now, we have maybe 50% of our population which are on some kind of a government dole or government payroll payment. But hey, only in America, where the free market economy creates enough wealth to where the government can subsidize half its people. So we have a guaranteed income for half the people in the United States, and the other half are subsidizing that guaranteed income by taking advantage of the free market economy, creating a wealth way beyond anything the world had ever seen before, and the government has taxed that wealth considerably to the tune of about 50% or more, and they are spending that money on social programs for the other half to not have to do a dang thing to receive an income. So this kind of wealth and progress, guaranteed income, we pretty much have here in the United States because for people to receive money for nothing, somebody has to earn it. That money has to be created. It don't just come out of thin air. The government just can't print money on and on and on forever, which looks like the United States is going to. But the thing about the free market system here and the method we have of our government building this ungodly debt of close to $40 trillion now, they're able to subsidize with guaranteed income for half the people in the United States. Now, Richard Nixon played around with this idea a little bit. Patrick Moynihan was an advisor. That was before Patrick became a senator from New York. He was an advisor to Richard Nixon, even though he was a Democrat. Well, Richard Nixon was a big rhino Republican name only. He was probably the biggest socialist Republicans ever elected. He gave us OSHA, he gave us the EPA, he gave us all kinds of socialist programs, and it burdens our government even today. But him and Patrick Moynihan were toying around with the idea of a guaranteed income here in the United States. And then, of course, Nixon got caught up in that Watergate issue, and that ruined the heck out of that idea. But Moynihan even, I think, published a book about guaranteed income. And but he later became senator and quit promoting that idea. But anybody with any insight or common sense could look and see we already had a guaranteed income in the United States, and our free market was able to create enough wealth to subsidize that guaranteed income, and for about half the population of our country, uh, is living off a guaranteed income that they don't have to earn. They receive it and live their lives pretty much without having to get up and go to work every day. But they uh, they really did can do that when you generate enough wealth. Now, the Chinese are pretty much subsidized by the wealth of the United States. Europe is subsidized by the wealth of the United States and their social programs and their military defense and everything. Trump's the first one to come along and said, look, we're wasting money subsidizing everybody in the world. We need to make America great. We need to keep this money here in the United States. And we need to quit economically subsidizing the European nations and especially China. Let them earn their own money, which they try to do with slave labor in a socialist, communist environment. They can only create wealth through slave labor, harvest natural resources, and use that labor to create products that people will buy around the world. And if they can do that by keeping their labor costs down, by using slave labor, child labor, and all that kind of stuff, then they can create a wealth. But the United States has been pretty much subsidizing the world for the last 100 years. And we need to cut that out. We saved France and England from having to speak German twice. We rescued them in World War I and World War II. And then when we asked for a little bit of help down there at the Strait of Hormuz, they'll say, well, you're taken care of. We don't need the help. They turn their backs on the United States. And they want our wealth, they want our military defense and at our cost and everything. But hey, we need to tell those people to cut the crap. And we need to take Greenland, we need to take Canada, we need to take Mexico. Quit putting up with all their foolishness. And make Western Hemisphere a great American-run area where people can live free, have a free market, create wealth, and keep it in our own Fort Knox. Keep our wealth, maintain our wealth. Notice Doug was talking about checking out Fort Knox to see what we really had there. Where'd that go? You don't hear about that anymore. I think somebody stuck their head in the door, saw nothing but empty floors, and said, oh shit, let's cut the crap on Fort Knox. Let's not talk about Fort Knox anymore. Somebody stole all that wealth. But anyway, guaranteed income. Only through the creation of wealth by a free market system like the United States has done can we guarantee an income for half our population and half the rest of the world. And we're hopefully shutting down this USAID, cutting out all that foolish spending all around the world. And hopefully we'll get out of the United Nations and NATO, quit wasting our money, our wealth on these thieving foreign countries. And that's all they want, is they want our money. They don't want to do anything for us, but they want our money. And we need to just tell them all where to kiss our grits and go away and maintain our wealth on their own. But anyway, only in America can the concept of a guaranteed income actually work. It's never worked anywhere else. It's never been able to stand on its own 2 feet. But the free market economy of the United States and the vast wealth it creates is able to subsidize a guaranteed income for half or more of our people. And there you go. A little information on guaranteed income and the utopian dream of a guaranteed income, which can only be made possible by the free market wealth, creational wealth in the United States. And there you go. Honesty and truth about your guaranteed income. It'll never stand on its own. It's got to have a creational wealth somewhere to subsidize it. And that's what we're doing here in the United States. But anyway, this is your hillbilly historian coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee, telling you about the concept and idea of the guaranteed income. And Visit Rugby, it's a nice little place for tourists now. Got a really great little restaurant there. Some of the old houses, architecture, furniture, and everything is still there. You can go and look at the place and visit it. Beautiful little place between Glen-Mary, Tennessee, and Jamestown, or Allert, Tennessee. Great little place for tourists to go. And this is your hillbilly historian signing off here in the hills of East Tennessee and Appalachia. You have a good day.